friends, it's just Martine, and today we're going to talk about my December 2023 reading stats. Every month last year, I made a little video about my reading stats for the month, and I'm going to do that for the last time for 2023 for my December stats. Also in a future video, I'll be giving you my year-long stats from 2023, so look forward to that. The reason all of my end of year, beginning of year content is always so late is because of the end of the 12 TBRs of Christmas. So if you didn't watch those, make sure you go and check them out right here. And without further ado, let's get into talking about my December reading. My December reading was less books than the average month for me in 2023, but not far off with page averages. Like, it was a pretty normal page month, and that was because some of the books I was reading were books I'd put off all year for 12 TBRs, and I really needed to finish them so that I could finish making 12 TBRs, but I put them off because they were very, very long books. And so we had some chunkers. Also, after I finally finished reading those books, my priority was no longer reading for the month. My priority became editing. That's what happened. I read 23 books in the month of December for a total of 9,260 pages. Bookly says I read about 7,000 pages, and I also read for 110 hours, which is like pretty normal for me for a month, I would say. That's on that. Other things, my average pages per day was 308.67, and then my average page count per book was 402.61, way higher than most of my averages for the rest of the year, which were hovering right around 300. So that was definitely why I read less books, but the same number of pages is because my average page count per book was almost 100 pages higher than the rest of the year. My most read genre was nonfiction, apparently. I guess it was, I don't know. 11 of my 23 books had representation of some kind, and only 2 of them were from authors I've read from before. So without further ado, we're gonna get into some fun graphs. It's interesting because I'm changing my spreadsheet up for 2024, so we won't have all these exact same things tracked or like looking exactly the same way in 2024. So this is like the last monthly review where it's going to look exactly like this and be in this order, which is a little emo. But like, here we go. We're going with the genre first. If I'm looking down, it's because I'm looking at my computer. Per usual, we have kind of a spread of things. I can see that large nonfiction section, and also I read plenty of fantasy, 4 fantasies for 18.2%, while nonfiction was 6 books with 27.3%, and then the next largest category was science fiction with 3 books for a total of 13.6%, 2 mysteries, 2 thrillers, and then 1 historical fiction, 1 romance, 1 classic, 1 contemporary. I would say this is pretty normal. I read a little bit of everything, pretty much. For book size, I'm actually really proud of this because only 17.4% of these books were small. In my spreadsheet, a small book is under 300 pages, so that's where we can also see the effect of the average pages per book going up because we only had 4 books that were under 300 pages. Most of our books were between 300 and 500 pages, 65.2% for a total of 15 of my reads. We also had 3 large books, that's any book between 500 and 700 pages, so that's 13% of my graph. And then we also had 1 chunky book that is any book over 700 pages, and that was the Alexander Hamilton biography. For star ratings, I think this is the most spread out that it's maybe been all year. I had several 5 stars, 5 of them in fact, which is great. That's 21.7% of my graph. Also lots of 4 stars, the same number actually as 5 stars, plenty of 3 and 3.5 stars, so that only 13% of my graph was below a 3-star rating, and the lowest rating that I gave in December was 2.5, so definitely not my worst books of the year, which is good. Ending the year on a high note, I would say. For series versus standalone, it's almost exactly split in half, with 52.2% standalone and 47.8% series. Aside from reading books that I was already in the middle of to finish them before Squash That Series started in January, and finishing up my 12 TBRs books, I mainly focused on reading first books in the series to prepare for Squash That Series, so that's where my 47.8% came into play, because I'll tell you, it wasn't when I was reading 12 TBR's books. That's not fully true. 3 Musketeers is technically the start of a trilogy, I believe. Anyway, point is, a lot of those were me preparing for January. For age range, I think this is so funny. This is probably the month where I read the least children's books because we combined our December and January Magic Treehouse reads, so I didn't read a single Magic Treehouse book in the month of December. I only read 1 children's book. It was a random middle grade, and I read 2 YA books for 8.7% of my graph. but 87% of my graph, 20 of my books, were adult books. That also explains why the books were longer, and it also explains why I read less books in general, because most of them were like slower books. Again, I'm going to reference Alexander Hamilton. Please watch my 12 TBRs video where I talk about it, because I struggled for that video. So for author gender, this is pretty normal in how it looks, except that I didn't have any reads that were explicitly by non-binary authors, which is disappointing for the month of December. 56.5% of my reads were by people who identified as female, 39.1% of the authors I read from identified as male, and then there was one unspecified. I couldn't find their pronouns or their identity anywhere in their like Goodreads bio or even on their website. That's usually what I do. That's on that. I think my format is pretty typical for me, but also interesting at the same time. Majority ebook per usual, often from my library, I would say, but I guess we'll find out in a later graph. Stay tuned. So 13 of my books were ebooks, and that was 56.5%. 7 of the books I read were physical, so that's 30.4% of my reads that I physically read. I read 2 audiobooks, and probably that was while falling asleep. It wasn't a big audiobook month for me. And then 1 book mixed media, because I read it with my eyeballs and also my earballs at the same time, and that was the Alexander Hamilton biography. The star of my December reading, truly. For publication date, there were largely backlist books, 73.9%. Did at least have 2 new releases, which is good. Both of them 2023 reads to end off 2023, and then some 2022 books, 4 of them, in fact, so 17.4% of my reading. It's hard to make this video and recalibrate my brain because it says last year, not 2022, and so my brain is like, last year was 2023, but not on this spreadsheet it wasn't, so there's that. And our last graph, but the one that I like love the most, I guess, not only is it green, but I think it has interesting information, is my acquired graph. For that, we see my library continues to come in clutch for me every day. 65.2% of my reads were from the library. That's 15 of them. I also read 1 singular owned ebook, and if you saw my 12 TBRs video about my Kindle library, you'd know that's not nearly enough. I also read 5 owned books, so owned physical books, that's 21.7%. Not bad. Most of those, I think, were 12 TBRs books. And then finally, 2 other books. I read 2 books that I had borrowed from either friends or family friends that I gave a read in December. So that's where they ended up. I'm very interested and excited to share my 2023 stats and reflections with you, so make sure that you've liked this video if you're excited for that, and subscribe if you want to catch that video. Also, comment down below, what is your favorite stat that I tracked this year that you're hoping I'm going to track in the new year, and also what's one stat that I don't track that you'd be interested to see from me next year. And subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content. And until next time, bye humans, bye!